It's funny how one innocent holiday tradition can turn into something that never leaves you, something that haunts you for years. This happened to me one Christmas, a memory that still sends a chill down my spine. I've never told anyone about that night, not even my family. It always felt too unreal, too terrifying to be true, but it was real. It started like any other Christmas Eve. I was 16, sitting in front of the fireplace flipping through an old magazine. The tree was glowing, the house was warm, and my little brother Timmy was already asleep upstairs, waiting for Santa. I didn't believe in Santa anymore, but I wasn't about to ruin the magic for him. Everything felt peaceful until midnight. That's when the air changed, heavier, still, almost like the house itself was holding its breath. Then I heard it. Slow, dragging footsteps outside. Not wind, not snow. Footsteps. My heart started pounding. A heavy thud echoed through the hall, followed by the soft creak of the back door. Someone was inside. I grabbed the nearest thing I could, a baseball bat, and moved toward the living room. That's when I heard it. Jingling bells. But not cheerful ones. These bells sounded slow, deliberate, almost mocking. And then I saw him. A man sitting by the fireplace dressed in a tattered Santa suit. But his beard was filthy, his eyes hollow and dark. He wasn't moving like a person, more like a puppet being pulled by invisible strings. He whispered to himself in a voice that didn't sound human, deep, guttural, like he was speaking from the bottom of a well. And then, I noticed something else. He wasn't alone. There was a child standing beside him, a little girl, pale, dirty, her dress torn. She wasn't moving. She wasn't blinking. And then she looked at me. Right at me. Her eyes were empty, but I could feel her seeing me. The man stood up slowly, turned to her, and whispered something in her ear. She didn't react. She just stared at the floor. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Then a door opened behind me. My mom was standing there, her face pale, her mouth open, but no sound came out. The jingling started again. Louder. Faster. The man turned toward me, and for the first time, I saw his eyes. Cold. Ancient. Full of something evil. And then he stepped backward into the shadows and vanished. My mother blinked, and suddenly everything was normal again. She looked at me and said softly, "Go to bed, honey, Santa's coming." I didn't sleep that night. When morning came, the tree still stood, the gifts were still there, but I knew what I'd seen. And from that year on, Christmas never felt the same. Even now, every Christmas Eve at midnight, I still hear those bells, and I can't help but wonder, is he still out there, waiting for his next visit? If you found this story chilling, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more terrifying tales. Stay safe this holiday season, because you never know who or what might come down your chimney. It was a quiet winter evening, the kind where the cold air nips at your face and the world feels like it's holding its breath. I had been invited to a Christmas party by a coworker, and while I didn't know many people there, I was hoping it would be a good way to kick off the holiday season. The house was located in a small, older neighborhood on the outskirts of town, a charming place with that old-fashioned kind of warmth that only seems to exist in movies or memories. The kind of place where you can imagine people gathered around a fireplace, sharing stories and drinking cocoa. I arrived a little early, the first one to show up. The host, a man named Dave, greeted me with a wide smile and a firm handshake. He seemed nice enough, though something about his energy felt slightly off. I brushed it off, assuming he was just nervous about hosting. The house itself had that eerie feeling old homes sometimes have. Creaky floors, drafty windows, a faint echo in every room. Still, nothing that felt dangerous. Yet the air was odd. As I walked inside, the smell of pine mixed with something faintly sour, like something old and spoiled, was hiding beneath the festive scent. It disappeared as soon as the door closed behind me. As the party started, more guests arrived. Laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses filled the space. The Christmas tree glowed softly in the corner, lights twinkling in time with the faint classical music playing in the background. It was everything you'd expect from a warm holiday gathering, except for one thing. There was a room off to the side, a door tucked away near the back of the house that no one seemed to use. It was slightly ajar, and every time I tried to look inside, someone would walk past or the door would creak shut again. I couldn't explain why, but I felt drawn to it. Every now and then I'd notice Dave glancing nervously toward that door, his smile faltering just for a second before he looked away. About an hour later, while I was chatting near the kitchen, I heard something, a faint sound that didn't belong. It was a voice, low and muffled, coming from that same closed-off room. I thought it might have been the music, but when I listened closely, I realized it wasn't. The sound was coming from behind that door. My curiosity got the better of me. I slipped away from the conversation and made my way through the crowd until I stood in front of it. I hesitated for a moment, hand hovering near the handle. Then, before I could touch it, the door slowly creaked open on its own. I swear I didn't move it. I looked around expecting someone else to notice, but everyone seemed lost in their own conversations. It was as if the house didn't want anyone else to see. My heart was racing. I pushed the door open wider and peeked inside. The room was dimly lit, the only light coming from a single lamp in the corner. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls, long and distorted. There was a small table in the center, and next to it an old moth-eaten armchair. Sitting in that chair was a man. His back was to me. He was wearing a Santa suit, an old one, faded, torn, and stained. His hands, pale and thin like bone, rested lifelessly on the arms of the chair. The air grew cold, so cold it felt like the warmth had been sucked out of the house. I wanted to call out to ask if he was okay, but before I could, I heard it again. The voice. "You shouldn't be here." It came from him, deep, gravelly, and wrong. My entire body froze. The man's head turned, slowly, painfully slowly, until I could see his face. His eyes were sunken, his cheeks hollow, his skin ashen and gray. He looked dead, but he was looking right at me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then everything blurred. I don't remember running, but suddenly I was back in the living room, surrounded by laughter, lights, and music. Everything looked normal, but I couldn't shake what I had just seen. I didn't say a word to anyone. They would have thought I was drunk or crazy. But as the night went on, I kept glancing at that door. It was closed again, completely still. The party ended and I left early. I never went back to Dave's house. A few weeks later, I heard that the home had been built on land where an old family once lived. A family that vanished without a trace decades ago. No one knows what happened to them. Some say it was something unnatural. I don't know what I saw that night, but I know it was real. Something in that house wasn't right. And deep down, I still feel like the man in that chair was waiting for me. If you've ever been to a party that felt like it was hiding something, or experienced something strange and unexplainable, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and share this video with anyone who loves a good horror story. And if you want to hear more chilling tales like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It was Christmas Eve 2017. The city was blanketed in snow, its quiet streets glowing softly under the streetlights. I had spent the day running errands and doing some last-minute shopping, but now, as the clock neared 11 p.m., I was curled up on the couch in my tiny apartment. The tree in the corner flickered with soft, colorful lights, and the hum of the TV was the only sound breaking the perfect silence. It was my first Christmas alone. My parents had gone to visit relatives, and my friends were scattered across the country, each with their own plans. I didn't really mind. I'd always preferred solitude during the holidays. There was something peaceful about it, the calm that came with a quiet night, where I could just relax and let the world outside move on without me. Wrapped in a blanket and sipping hot chocolate, I almost felt content. Then the phone rang. The number on the screen wasn't one I recognized. It wasn't local, and I didn't recognize the area code either. Normally, I'd ignore a call like that, but something made me press the green button, maybe loneliness or simple curiosity. "Hello?" I said, trying to sound casual. I regretted it immediately. The voice on the other end wasn't familiar. It was low, almost a whisper, like someone trying to hide their identity. "Are you alone?" the voice asked. The tone wasn't curious or concerned. It sounded like an accusation. Something about it sent a chill crawling up my spine. "Yeah," I replied, trying to sound calm, even as unease crept into my chest. "Who is this?" There was silence. A long, heavy pause. I could hear faint breathing, but no words. Then, just as I was about to hang up, the voice returned. "Why are you alone?" This time it was sharper, too interested. My fingers tightened around the phone. I don't know why, but I couldn't hang up. I wanted to. I should have. But something about the moment held me still, like I was trapped. "I'm alone because I just am," I said finally, my voice trembling slightly. "What is this about?" The voice chuckled. It wasn't a friendly laugh. It was cold, distant, and wrong. It felt like the laugh wasn't meant for me, but for something else, or someone else. "Look outside," the voice said. My breath caught in my throat. Look outside. It was pitch black beyond the window, except for the soft outline of snow falling against the glass. I hesitated. Every instinct told me not to, but the calm command in that voice made it feel impossible to refuse. I moved toward the window. The floor creaked under my feet. I pulled the curtain aside just enough to peek through. At first there was nothing, just the quiet, snow-covered street, faintly lit by the streetlights. Everything looked peaceful, still. Then I saw it. A figure, standing across the street. They were tall, wearing a long, dark coat, their face hidden beneath the shadow of a hood. I couldn't see their features, but something about them felt wrong. Their stillness. The way they stood just outside the reach of the light, as if they knew exactly where to stop to stay unseen. I stepped back from the window, heart pounding. Before I could move, the voice spoke again. "Do you see him?" The whisper felt too close, like the person was right behind me. My mouth went dry. I couldn't speak. "He's watching you," the voice said. And then, the line went dead. I stood frozen, staring at the dark figure outside. My hands shook. Slowly, I backed away from the window, my eyes fixed on that spot. Was I imagining this? Was it just the loneliness playing tricks on me? Then came the sound. A thud. It came from the front door. My heart dropped. It wasn't a knock, it was heavier, like someone had slammed their body into the door. The whole frame rattled from the impact. Another thud. Then a third. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Finally, panic took over. I grabbed a chair and wedged it under the doorknob, my hands trembling. Silence. I forced myself to look through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was dark and empty. Cautiously, I opened the door a crack. No one was there. The silence was deafening. I shut the door, locked it, checked every window, every latch. My mind was spinning. None of it made sense. I unplugged the TV, the landline, even turned off my phone, anything to stop the ringing, anything to silence that voice. But the feeling of being watched never left. I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat there in the dark, staring at the walls, listening for the smallest sound. The phone never rang again, but that voice, that calm, whispering voice, still echoes in my mind every Christmas Eve. I never found out who made that call, who was standing outside my window, or who slammed against my door. All I know is, I've never spent another Christmas alone. It was the kind of cold December evening where the air feels sharp, almost biting, and the only warmth you can find is from the glow of your own breath. I had been looking forward to that Christmas more than any in recent years. After a long stretch of working overtime and dealing with personal loss, I felt like I finally deserved a little peace. That's why I decided to visit the local Christmas tree farm. It wasn't the biggest one in town, far from it, but it had a certain nostalgic charm. Rows of tall, perfectly shaped pines stood like soldiers, waiting to be taken home and dressed in twinkling lights. I had a small cabin on the outskirts of town, and I thought picking out a tree would be the perfect way to get into the holiday spirit. The farm was owned by an elderly couple, the Hansons, who had been running it for decades. They were well known in the area, and their farm had always been a symbol of warmth and tradition. Every year they invited families to choose their tree and soak in the holiday cheer. There was always hot chocolate, laughter, and sometimes carolers who would show up just to spread joy. It was small-town Christmas at its finest. But that year, something felt different. I arrived just after sunset. The sky was already darkening, and the flickering lights from the farm's entrance cast long, strange shadows across the snow. As I parked my car and stepped out, the crunch of snow beneath my boots was the only sound. The place was too quiet. I walked toward the large barn-like building at the center of the farm, where I expected to find the Hansons. But as I approached, I noticed something odd. There were no cars in the lot, no families wandering about, no laughter, no music. For a place that usually buzzed with holiday life, it was unnervingly silent. The barn door was slightly open. "Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Hanson?" I called out. No answer. I stepped inside. The warmth hit me immediately, almost too warm, unnaturally so. The interior looked just as I remembered: a crackling fireplace in the corner, baskets of candy canes and ornaments on the counter, and an old-fashioned cash register by the wall. But something was off. There was a faint smell in the air, something sour, like old wood, or something decaying. It lingered, heavy and unpleasant. "Mr. Hanson? Mrs. Hanson?" I called again, my voice echoing through the barn. Still nothing. I took a few cautious steps deeper into the building, wondering if maybe they'd gone inside the house. Then my eyes caught something strange. In the corner stood a Christmas tree. It was tall, lush, and full, but its decorations weren't the usual festive kind. No shiny ornaments, no string lights. Instead, the tree was adorned with what looked like homemade carvings, rough, uneven shapes that at first seemed harmless. Until I looked closer. They were faces. Twisted, gnarled faces, distorted expressions frozen in wood. Each one looked different, but all of them shared the same haunting detail: hollow eyes that seemed to stare right at me. A chill ran down my spine. I turned, hoping to find the Hansons, but something made me stop cold. The barn wasn't empty. In the dim light, I saw shadows, tall, still shapes lurking in the corners. They didn't move, but I could feel them watching me. I reached for my phone, my hands trembling, intending to call the Hansons. But before I could, I heard it. The barn door creaked shut behind me. Slowly. The latch clicked. Locked. "Hello?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but my throat was dry. Then I heard it. A whisper. Faint. From the back of the barn, from where the shadows were deepest. "Leave now." I froze. The whisper came again, louder this time. "Leave. Now." My heart pounded in my chest. I shoved my phone into my pocket and rushed to the door, but when I grabbed the handle, it wouldn't move. It was locked. From the outside, panic took hold. I pounded on the door, yelling for help, but no one answered. The air felt heavier. The warmth that had greeted me now felt suffocating. I turned back toward the tree. The grotesque faces carved into the bark seemed to shift in the flickering light, their hollow eyes following me. I could hear something now, soft whispers, almost like voices carried by the wind. Then came a loud crash from the far corner of the barn. Something or someone was moving. Heavy footsteps echoed across the wooden floor, slow and deliberate. I spun toward the sound, squinting into the shadows. I couldn't see clearly, just faint movement, darkness shifting against darkness. And then, a figure stepped forward. It was Mrs. Hanson, or at least, it looked like her. She wore her familiar red scarf. But her face wasn't right. Her eyes were wide, unnaturally bulging, her skin pale and grayish like it hadn't seen sunlight in years. "Get out," she rasped. Her voice was harsh and broken, like it had been dragged through the dirt. "You shouldn't be here." The door rattled again behind me. I turned, and there stood Mr. Hanson. His face was twisted too, his eyes empty. his hands trembling as he held a long, rusted knife. "Leave now," he repeated, his voice cold and lifeless. That's when I realized I wasn't standing in a Christmas tree farm anymore. I was standing in something far darker. I ran. I don't even remember how. Somehow I broke through a side window, the glass shattering as I stumbled out into the snow. I ran through the open fields, my breath freezing in the air, not daring to look back. I don't know how long I ran, but I didn't stop until I reached the road. The next morning, I returned to the farm with the police. But the Hansons were gone. The farm was completely abandoned. The barn stood silent, its door hanging open. The trees were gone. The ornaments were gone. Even the carved tree in the corner, gone. The authorities found no trace of the Hansons, no sign of where they went. But even though the farm was empty, the air still felt wrong. It was as if something dark lingered there, something that didn't want to be found. To this day, I don't know what happened at that farm. But sometimes, late on winter nights when the wind blows through the trees, I still hear faint whispers, like the voices I heard in that barn. And I wonder, are the Hansons still out there, waiting for someone else to come looking for a Christmas tree? If you enjoyed this chilling tale, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more spine-tingling true horror stories. And remember, sometimes the scariest things aren't the ones we see, but the ones we don't.